Good afternoon. We don't have a status update yet about Azzi Fudd and her knee injury, but we're going to assume she's fine based on the information that we have until we hear otherwise. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we get diving into the show, I just have to say thank you. Thank you to all the fans out there who are helping this podcast grow so much. And it's because of fans like you who value great UConn content. We're proud to say we're the only daily podcast that covers both the women's and the men's teams, the absolute basketball capital of the world. And we're thrilled to bring you the coverage you deserve. And to show that gratitude, we're giving back. We're donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games. And we're also making a monthly donation to Bleeding Blue for Good. So support your NIL initiative, support your local industries that help out kids and other things that are associated with UConn. We love all of it. If you're enjoying the show, take a moment to subscribe, follow, and leave a review wherever you listen. It helps us with our connection to fans that haven't found us yet. Every subscription, every like, every follow, every download helps us. It helps the show grow, and in turn makes the donation that we have larger, helps send kids more to games, and helps us donate more to NIL. So today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Now new customers can place a $5 bet, and you get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay. Geno Auriemma has been calling for something very specific from his team over the last few weeks, and 40 minutes of consistency. Remember in the men's game, what's his name? Nolan Richardson, 40 minutes of hell. All Geno wanted was 40 minutes of consistency, not even 40 minutes of hell. He wanted high level, smart basketball, not three quarters, not one half, not one quarter, not a 10-minute stretch here or there. He wanted a dominant start followed by no letdowns, and he wanted it to be uninterrupted. I almost disagree with him to a certain extent that he got this 40-minute masterclass, but we're covering it as such because this is what he thought. I did think there was a lull in the middle of right at the beginning of the second quarter after it was 28-10. But we're gonna go with the all-time leader in wins and not the guy who started his podcast last March. I have an opinion. I don't always agree with the coaches, but I'm going to defer to him because he knows more than me, and I have no problem, pardon me, saying that. He wanted it uninterrupted. He got a full game of effort that would showcase what this UConn team is fully capable of. That I agree with. And on Saturday against the 22-ranked Louisville Cardinals in the Women's Champion Classic, he felt like he got just that. Huskies got an 85-52 win, and it was about more than just a lopsided score because as many times as UConn does kill teams, like in this 2002 national championship run with my 39-0 t-shirt, it was a statement. Every game is a statement right now. This team will always be there waiting for the next challenge. So they got a couple things. Great ball movement. Overwhelming defense. Contributions from up and down the roster. This game was, for all intents and purposes, a blueprint for what this UConn squad can do when everything is rolling on all cylinders. And to go back to what I said earlier in disagreeing with Geno a little bit, I mean, it's talking about like a mini lull. But at the same time, it was one. I think sometimes, sorry, I have a little indigestion. I think sometimes my expectation level for this team, because of how good they are, doesn't reach the same reality that Geno, who has been doing this for 40 years, does, and that's totally fair. He was quoted as saying, "This is what we're capable of doing. Doesn't mean we're going to be able to do it every night." He cautioned people, but we know that this is in the picture for us. Thought that was phrased rather nicely. What stands out the most is, as we talked about, and I'll be the first one to point to the fact that I know that Geno doesn't like to play a lot of players. I know he wants to have a tight rotation, but sometimes you just don't have a choice. Not even just about foul trouble or anything like that, because they didn't have much of that. But he's got a luxury of sitting some players. And now, since we don't know the injury status of Azzi, I feel like, as Geno said, worst case scenario was avoided. I think you need to rely on the Morgan Chelis of the world, the Janelle Alfys, the Ashland Shades off the bench, all of whom contributed meaningful minutes on Saturday. But I would go so as to go further and say, try to find some minutes for Ali Zabal. Try to find minutes for anybody that he hasn't played on a high level yet, because I don't want there to be a scenario where we're relying solely on Paige and or Sarah when it matters the most. And obviously Saturday, Sarah, the freshman phenom, she really kind of announced herself to the rest of the world who casually watch women's basketball, because she took center stage. 21 points, 8 of 10 from the floor, showing why she's already drawing comparison to UConn greats. Paige struggled with her shot, but that's it. She did everything else. She didn't need to carry the load. Instead, she facilitated and trusted her teammates and let the game come to her. And we all know that Paige very well. That maturity to be able to be comfortable in your skin when you're not shooting the ball well and you do everything else to help your team win. That's her in a nutshell. But what stands out the most is, let's talk about the defense. Louisville came in as a ranked team, 22nd in the country, on the upswing. UConn made them look overmatched in every level of the court. The Huskies held them to 26% shooting, dominated the boards, applied relentless pressure to the ball. And Louisville head coach Jeff Walls put it, if you don't come ready to play against UConn, all it takes is 4 or 5 minutes and it's over. Is there a more succinct way to describe when you play UConn if you don't play up to snuff? And it's exactly what happened. A 28-10 first quarter set the tone, and there was literally no letting up. Kind of like a boa constrictor, they just kind of sucked the life out of you. But perhaps the most encouraging part of the win was how UConn responded when things didn't go perfectly. We talked about this on the program Sunday morning. Azzi left the game with a knee injury. We're still waiting to hear the official word on that. But everyone did step up. I point to, Sarah and Paige are always there. But Ashland Shade was such a revelation after that, coming off the dribble, not settling for threes, getting inside the three-point line and hitting some really great mid-range jumpers. I thought she was really great on Sunday night or Saturday night. Geno summed it best. In order to win it all, you have to have it all. I think he is quoting the late, great Hank Strom, football coach of the New York Jets, I believe. He's not sure if his team has it all, but Saturday's performance was a reminder of how much they do have. The depth, the balance, the defensive commitment, it's all there. And I think it will constantly be there. And as the team continues to gel, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Azzi is back to where she needs to be, and we don't have a unfortunate situation for her. This team will continue to show how it's capable of something special. The next game against Notre Dame is looming, with Hannah Hidalgo now ranked in Notre Dame, now ranked in the top 10. If the Huskies can bottle this effort up and sell it, I'll take some. But as far as the rest of the country, you should probably watch out for the Huskies. This UConn team will be waiting for you with all of that energy and all of that depth, as long as Geno allows it. I think this UConn team is special from a 1 through 10 perspective. So I know he's been asking for 40 minutes of high-level basketball, and I think he got 37 and a half. So, but as far as Geno's concerned, it was a 40-minute masterclass. That's good enough for me. All right, coming up after the break, we're going to talk about UConn at number 2 in the AP polls, and just how good is Sarah Strong. Spoiler alert, she's really freaking good. All right, we'll be right back. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite, And right now, you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more. Save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off promo code COLLEGE. Okay, you're back on Locked On College. The latest AP rankings came out today, and UConn sits at number 2, receiving 8 first-place votes, while UCLA holds strong at number 1 with 24 votes. UConn fans might have feelings about being slighted given the Huskies' dominant win over number 22 Louisville and their unblemished 8-0 record. But I think I want to pump the brakes on the argument for the top spot. Not because it's not justified, but UCLA's body of work so far does justify their ranking to an extent. They're 9-0. They're playing a solid schedule, and they're doing that for doing what a number one team should do, winning every game really convincingly. However, it was unprecedented that they jumped everybody on the win against South Carolina. But look, that South Carolina win was huge. If South Carolina goes, I think it was a double-edged sword, because does it show that UCLA has the juice to beat a top team? Absolutely. And they deserve to be number 1 right now. They got balance all across their roster. But what I would say is it probably helped South Carolina. And it's because the pressure's off. You don't need to be 39-0. I'm sorry, it's up here. You don't need to be 39-0. Just don't. You can be 38-1. You can go 35-4. I think most national champions now, unless they are ultra dominant, will not be undefeated for the most part in women's college basketball going forward. UConn's number 2 ranking, 8 first place votes. I think it's where exactly where they should be. This is a team that's starting to gel with newfound depth. Fingers crossed, Azzi staying healthy. Geno has been pushing them to play that complete 40 minutes, and they just did that against Louisville. So even if their coach doesn't feel like they played a full 40 minutes of solid basketball, why would the AP voters? I think the Huskies are showing that they belong in the conversation to be number 1, but consistency matters, and they've been a little up and down. Winning by a ton doesn't really mean much to me, because this UConn team and UConn teams of the past, as well as good teams in women's basketball, do that on a regular basis. UCLA has been more consistent this year, so just give it to them right now. I don't care if we're ranked, what we're ranked right now. What's more interesting to me is the value of these rankings at this stage of the season, right? If we're number 1 going into the end of the year, that means we're the number 1 overall seed. The pathway to the Final Four in Tampa is easier, but right now 8 games is a snapshot of a season, so it's not definitive. It's not a definitive measure of who's the best team. It's just kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a weekly reminder of where people are at. That's all. It's like a check-in. Hey, did you win all your games? Okay, cool. Did anyone lose above you? No? Okay. So you stay where you are. Were some of your wins more impressive than others? Cool. Maybe we'll move you up because of that. And that's why UCLA is at 1. So UConn fans want the top spot. I get it. It's going to look like a fan pride thing. On the men's side, they're ranked 18th. They were ranked 3rd. They lost 3 straight. They didn't drop out, but now they're moving back up to 18. It's just an ebb and flow of the season. And would it have bothered me if the UConn men had dropped out of the top 25? Probably a little bit, but I don't care, man. And especially with the women, what do you care? 1, 2, 3? Just get a 1 seed and go win the national championship. That's essentially what they're going to do. So the other part of this discussion is voting system itself, right? The AP is largely subjective, what I just said. It's a check-in. And so it's kind of an honor system with prospective voters across the country. You get an AP vote, you vote every week. And sometimes, I will be honest with you, I guarantee you there are some people who have not paid attention to every women's college basketball game and look at the box scores and go, okay, this is where I think it should be. Some people take it really seriously. To each their own. The criteria for AP voting is relatively unknown. From me perspective, I'm sure you can find out pretty easily. But I do think that the 8 first place votes for UConn right now really show where they're going to be and where they're going to be pretty soon. Because look, if they beat Notre Dame, if they beat USC, and then they beat Iowa State, I don't think there's a team that would have the type of resume that they have going into the Big East schedule. So for now, UConn being ranked number 2, I feel is fair. It's recognition of what what they've done so far. UCLA deserves their flowers for what they've accomplished so far. I don't know if it'll stay. I don't know if they have the pedigree for it or the team for it, but we'll see. If UConn keeps playing like they did against Louisville, it will not be too long before they overtake UCLA as the number 1 team in the country. So do not worry about it. USC and Texas both lost to, I was going to say is, I put a couple of bullet points in here. So things that did confuse me, and like I said, I think partly it's because some voters just don't pay attention as much. Iowa State's placement at 20, don't really understand it. Michigan State moves up seven spots with a win over DePaul. And both Texas and USC, who both lost to Notre Dame, are both ahead of Notre Dame in the polls. Things that make you go, So, again, it's not just UConn. Just understand these voters are human. Maybe they had what happens to me sometimes. I'm all excited to do a live reaction show, and then your hellion kids run into the room and kind of take all the air out of it, and you can't do anything else but just hang out with them. So, not that I'm complaining, but this is just life. Anyway, we're going to move past it and talk about just how good Sarah Strong is. And like we said, spoiler alert, she's damn good. Come back with us. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more in the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Okay. How good is Sarah Strong? She's special. When you start to think about what Geno has talked about how she compares with Breanna Stewart in her freshman year, I'm going to show you some numbers right now that are going to blow you away. Sarah Strong, and I don't have metrics to back this up, is, if not the most impactful player on the court when she plays, she is at times even more impactful than Paige Bueckers. Just based on everything she does to affect winning. It's not just points. It's not just how she provides rebounding, shoots at a high clip. It's everything is special. So think about Breanna. Her freshman year set the tone for a legendary career, obviously with 4 national championships. But looking at Sarah's start to the 2024 season, again, we're extrapolating a lot of 36 games versus 8 to start the season. You can't help but wonder if she's already on track to carve her own place in UConn's absolutely storied history, and maybe even redefine what a freshman can achieve at UConn. I'll break it down for you like this. Through 18.6 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, 1.5 assists, which will definitely go up because she's had some better games. Nearly 2 steals per game, and I believe 2 blocks. Her efficiency is notable, shooting 58.7% from the field and almost 44% from beyond the arc. On Saturday against Louisville, she dropped 21 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and really showcased all of this versatility and ability to step up when her team needed her most. Now let's compare that to Breanna in her freshman year. Now, again, albeit a larger sample, 13.8 points per game, 6.4 rebounds over the course of 36 games, while leading the team in blocks with 74 for the year. She was an absolute dynamic contributor to UConn's championship run, especially in the postseason as she got better, where she took her game to literally an entirely new level. Statistically, Sarah is ahead of Breanna at this point in their respective freshman campaigns. Stewart grew into her dominance as the season progressed. But we're already talking about Sarah Strong dominating ranked opponents game in and game out. Now, before we even get into Big East play, so less than 10 games into the year, she's, if not the best player on this team, she's tied with Paige. And what that means nationally is she's either the best player in the country or the second best player in the country, depending on how you look at it. And I'm sure people are going to go, well, what about, Juju Watkins or Hannah Hidalgo or Full Wiley from South Carolina? I'm just throwing out names. Audie Crooks, whoever. Sure, they're comparable, but they don't do everything that Sarah does. They just don't. She's been given so much more responsibility as a freshman that I don't think Geno even understands how good she is, because he's never really done this with a freshman. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, maybe Maya, maybe Diana a little bit, but not really, because there were some growing pains with those players. And Breanna Stewart is the best comp because they play a similar position. They're both taller. They do a little bit of everything. They're leaders already. And what I love about her is she's essentially she's a kid, but she doesn't let anything bother her. She's all about business. It's a product of growing up with a family member or two that are professional athletes. It's in her DNA. It's just, she's making her mark right out of the gate. She's already proven as the most impactful player on this team, because if you focus on Paige, she shreds you. If you focus on Sarah, Paige will shred you. That's what makes this team so dynamic, is that Sarah's better than what people thought. I 100% believe that. She's generational, because we never used to use that word in the past, because I don't think people really thought about players in that like. But she is the type of player that you can build rosters around. And I know Geno's going to start doing that. And what stands out about Sarah is her adaptability. Geno called her go-go gadget arms for her incredible reach. And it's her skill set that makes her special. She plays more like a guard than a traditional post player, handling the ball, passing, spacing the floor, putting people in places. Breanna Stewart had a similar versatility. But Strong's ability is seamlessly almost a better fit than Breanna was in that 2002 season into UConn's offense. Not 2002, 2000. God, I'm losing my train of thought. 2013 season. But I just feel like this team needed Sarah. Like Breanna's freshman year, I don't think they needed her to win a national championship. It certainly helped, and she was a key contributor, but if she picked another school, they would have been like, oh man, but they still would have won the national championship. That's how good that team was. This team needed Sarah. If they don't have Sarah, they're still top 5 team in the country. They're still competing for a national championship, but it's going to be a hell of a lot tougher. Man. Her efficiency. Stewart shot over 50% as a freshman, while Sarah is hovering closer to 60. She's also a better three-point shooter, hitting nearly 44% from deep to Breanna's 28%. 28 made threes in her entire freshman season. Now, does it matter that she only made 28 threes? Absolutely not. She hung a banner. But as far as just comparing them in their start to their career, it's like night and day. And it's absolutely too soon to compare her to one of the greatest players in program history. Don't get me wrong, because I'm sure people are going to rip into me. How could you compare her to Stewie? Stewie won 4 national championships, blah, 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 blah. Guys, it's a daily show, and I am enamored with Sarah Strong. I could do a Sarah Strong show every day until they play on Thursday, because she's that good. I could just take clips of her doing crazy stuff on the court and then talk about them for 25 minutes, and that's the show. I spread it around because it's a well-rounded show, but she is this good. And as long as she, God willing, knock on wood, stays healthy, she's going to be one of the greatest players to ever step foot on Storrs campus and put on the UConn jersey, without a doubt. So again, as I said, it's too soon to compare her, but man, it's there. And Breanna Stewart's postseason career is what cemented her legacy as the great, as if not the greatest of all time, top 2 or 3 with however you want to label the top 5 or 10 UConn women's players of all time. But Sarah is making a real big statement in the regular season that she's coming after the GOATs, and she's gonna, if her career is anything like I think it's gonna be, the trajectory is straight up. It's not gonna look like this. It's gonna look like this. And she's not playing like a freshman. She's playing like a veteran that's been in college basketball for 4 years already. Well, anyway, this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked on, stay connected, and to remember it's not just about getting it done. It's about doing it in a way that hasn't been done any better. And that's our goal every day for this show, for you guys. Stay connected. Make sure you're subscribing, following the show. Please, if you're listening to this for the first time, go follow an audio version on your Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen. It helps our show grow even more than the YouTube channel. Appreciate all the support. Go Huskies.